You walk into a dark room, illuminated by a single light bulb hanging from the center of the ceiling. It faintly illuminates the piano resting in the middle of the room, as well as the old man sitting at it. It's quiet. The man isn't playing anything. You watch him stare at the keys silently from the doorway. You wait a few moments, then you take a few cautionary steps into the room. As you do so, the old man slowly turns around and looks at you. The man's face isn't as wrinkly and aged like most of the other old people you've observed, yet somehow the look behind his eyes appears far older than any other you've ever seen. You ask him the question, the one you've repeated over and over in your head, hoping to get it just right. Are you the pianist? It still feels awkward, unnatural. The words sounded better in your head than they do out loud. Out of nervous habit, you clasp your hands behind your back and look down at the ground, waiting for some sort of a reply. You hear the old man chuckle slightly. That name was given by those who wish to spite me, but yes, I suppose I am the pianist, the old man responds. Did you come here to ask for a song? You stutter. You feel embarrassed. You admit that, yes, you came to hear a song, but you didn't mean to interrupt him, and you didn't want to be a nuisance. The old man shushes you. You freeze wordlessly, mid-sentence. Then the old man motions to the side of the room, and as you look over, you see a wooden chair sitting against the wall. Had that been there before? You look back over at the man. He nods. You run over to the chair, sitting down as quickly and quietly as you can. The old man smiles at you and turns to the piano, bringing his hands up onto the keys. Your breath catches in your throat, and then he begins to play. Well, back again, the old man says. You halt just inside the doorway. The piano and the old man are in the same positions that they were the night before, as if they had never moved. You look at the old man in surprise. Did he know you'd come back? Well, yes, you say. You thought he had played so beautifully, and you couldn't stop thinking about the songs he'd played, and the old man hushes you, and as you pause, he starts to chuckle. Little one, you act as if it is a burden for me to play for you. Come, sit, he declares, motioning to the chair at the edge of the room again. You whisper a thank you and dart over to it once again. Last night you didn't know what to expect, but now you wait in eager anticipation and wonder. The old man gives you another smile and turns to the keys. But he pauses and turns back to you. I want you to know that you are welcome here at any time, young one. Your presence is anything but a burden. Understand? You nod hastily, and the old man whispers a faint, good, before turning to the piano, this time for real. And he plays once again. Sir, you say as you step back into the room. After the past 3 or 4 nights, you feel more confident, more comfortable in coming here. But you're still somewhat nervous as you watch as you speak to him. All my friends make fun of me for listening to you, sir, you mumble, lowering your head in shame. You can still hear the laughs and jeers, and you see the fingers pointing at you, mocking you for doing what few others have ever done. The old man hums softly to himself as he turns to look at you. Well, that's unfortunate. Nobody likes to be teased. These were your friends, you say? You're about to say yes, but something about the way the old man says it and the way he looks at you makes you stop and think. Well, I thought they were my friends, you stammer uncertainly. Well, in that case, maybe you need a new friend or two, the old man replies. You frown in confusion. You don't know of anybody else to be friends with. Does he really just expect you to be able to go out and make new friends? But then you focus back in on the old man, who is smiling, legs crossed, hands clasped together. That smile, it's kind, and understanding, and loving. "As it turns out, I am in need of a friend or two," the old man says. "Do you think you could be mine?" Caught by surprise once again, you try to reply, faltering, but the old man just laughs. "Come," he says. "I suppose you've been here enough times to have already qualified as a friend." You say a quick thank you, and you walk as usual over to the chair. The old man chide slightly. "If you're my friend now, then that means you have to sit on the bench." You stop and look over at the man in complete disbelief. Really?" The old man just laughs and scoots over on the bench, motioning for you to join him. You walk over hesitantly, slowly sliding onto the open end of the bench. It's smooth and feels worn, like hundreds of other people have slid onto the bench in exactly the same way, over and over again, over the past 100 years. The piano is wooden, uncolored, undecorated. If it had ever been painted, then the paint had long since peeled away. As if he can hear you think, the old man says, "Do you know what color this piano used to be?" Bewildered, you tell him you don't know. He begins to tell you about the days when the piano was painted blue and looked much fancier and well adorned, when he was almost as young as you, and he tells you of all the wonderful things that once were but no longer are. One night, as you're sitting there with the old man on the piano, listening to him play, he stops abruptly and turns his head to look at you. You've already lost count of the number of nights you spent here, but you weren't really counting in the first place. But you look back at him, wondering what it is that made him stop. "You know, I am pretty old," the man says, "and someday I'm not going to be able to play for you anymore. However," he says as you're about to interject, "I believe with much practice, one day, you could play the piano too, like I do." There is a moment of silence. You look at the man with disbelief. You begin to protest. There's no way you'll ever be able to learn how to play the piano, much less all the different songs and things he knows. "Well, exactly why it'll take a lot of practice," the old man replies. "It won't come easily or quickly, and at times it'll be pretty frustrating. But in the end, I believe it will be worth it. Now, where do we begin?" From then on, the old man teaches you everything he knows and has learned over the years, but of course, not all at once. It starts fairly simply. He shows you where to place your hands on the keys, and he helps you begin to play. You are nowhere near as good as the old man, and you can tell he sometimes struggles to explain things to you. But with patience, practice, and lots of time, you learn, note by note, song by song. The nights blend together, the weeks turning into months. Progress is slow, but it's steady. Eventually, you fully learn your first song. It's a simple one, not nearly as intricate and complex as the ones the old man plays, but you've still learned it, nevertheless. It gives you pride. It gives you joy. Almost more than when he plays. Well, almost. Years pass. You become older, as does the old man. By now you've known lots of different songs and can play them by heart. You still make mistakes, but the old man gradually corrects you less and less. On one such night, the man stops you in the middle of the song. He does have a habit of doing that, both when he's playing and when you're playing. "It's time you moved on to something a little more challenging," he says. "I want you to try and make your own song." Your own song? Well, maybe not your best song, but just try to make something new, on the spot. But you look at the keys. How are you supposed to know what to play? The man laughs. "Child, one day you'll learn how little it matters whether or not you know what to play. Play anyways. Don't let your lack of knowledge keep you from trying." "But what if you don't play the right notes?" "Child, there are no right notes. The only thing that counts is whether or not you play them earnestly. And I suppose it does help if it sounds nice, he ended, chuckling. But whatever you play, don't play it fearfully or worrying about how it sounds. You will make mistakes, and that's okay. Mistakes are how you improve. He pauses, his eyes listening focused slightly, as if saying that phrase made him remember a long-forgotten memory. But he snaps out of it and looks at you expectantly. You look down once again at the keys. Over time, they become more familiar, but now that you don't know which ones to press, they feel alien, foreign. You're a little afraid, to say the least. But the man seems confident in you. And so, although you don't know what to play, you trust that he knows that somewhere inside, you do. Your songs sound worse than when you first began, or so you believe, but instead of correcting and pointing out the mistakes, the old man encourages you, even though the sound never feels quite right. But as you try anew each night, you start to see what the old man was saying. Sometimes you don't know which note to play, or which chord to choose, but sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes it sounds okay either way. It's still not as beautiful and elegant as the songs you learned from the old man, but sometimes you walk away from the piano feeling satisfied in the songs you've made. Maybe there are no right notes, just ones that sound better at different times. You ask the old man many questions about his life, and he asks you many in return. The focus becomes less on the piano and more on the mood behind it. If the song is grand and happy, you both talk about the things that bring you joy. If the song is somber and quiet, you contemplate and ruminate together on the things that are often not spoken about. As you get over, you start to remember the songs less and the conversations more. The old man hasn't given you a correcting mark in years, to be honest. You know when you mess up, and you know that he knows that you know when you mess up. But sometimes it doesn't even matter. It's just one note, after all. Once it's played, it only remains if you linger on it for too long. But the discussions you have, the things you talk about with the old man, you've had lots and lots of thoughts about many things. It's freeing to be able to share these feelings with a man. It surprises you sometimes how much he knows, but also how much he doesn't, how little anyone knows about anything. But through it all, the songs and the piano are always there, a reminder of the reality of it all. One night, the old man isn't there. You've long outgrown being a child. You're almost an adult. You walk into that same room with the same light bulb and same piano, but the man isn't there. This is the first time this has ever happened. You pause, listening. The silent hum of the bulb, the slight creaking of the floorboards. You call out. A pause. You shout his name, hoping to hear his response. You hear none. You walk over to the piano, wondering if the old man is okay. As you get closer, you see a paper there. It has writing on it. It's very scraggly, but still legible. You pick up the paper, anxiety starting to fill your entire body. It is, indeed, a note from the old man. Young one, you are no longer young, and it is time I stopped pretending you were. You know I'm old, but you probably don't know when it'll be my time. Neither do I, but I feel it is closer than I expect. I do not wish to burden anyone with my passing, so please forgive me, but I have made the choice to leave. I know this will be hard for you. It's hard for me too. Every time I see the piano, I think of you and all the wonderful songs that not only I have played for you, but all the ones you have created for me. But all good things, no matter how wonderful or beautiful, must come to an end, and that end is now. Please, never stop playing. Never stop doing the things that give you joy, no matter how much people criticize and ridicule you for it. Life is too short not to do what you love. But thank you for being the last one I could play for. You set the paper back down. Your hand is trembling. You take a weak breath in, and you sit down, resting your arms and head on the keyboard, and you let the tears flow. It is many days before you're able to bring yourself back to that room, but you know that you have to do it. The old man, he was gone, but you know that you could not be heartbroken forever. He wouldn't want you to be. And so, one night, you walk slowly into that familiar room, the piano resting peacefully under the light. You sit down, slower than you ever have before, even slower than the first time the old man let you sit here. You look at the worn, chipped keys and think about the nights you've spent here. And so, thinking back to that first night, you place your hands on the keys and remember the first song you had ever heard the man play. And so, you play. Some days are easy, some are hard. You play on. Sometimes you want to quit. Sometimes you want to just give up. You play on. Sometimes, even after all these years, you still make mistakes. But no matter the things that are thrown your way, you play on, day after day, month after month, year after year. And so, you play until... A small boy walks into the room. It's dark, but a light hanging high from the middle of the ceiling illuminates you, sitting at the piano. You're not playing anything. You're just sitting there, staring calmly at the keys. You look at the boy as he walks shyly up to you at the piano. He looks at your face. You look at his, wondering if you looked that young when you first came here. Are you the pianist? The boy asks quietly. In some ways you were expecting the question. That is, after all, what people call you now. Some out of respect, others out of spite. But hearing it from someone you know only associates the name with you, it's almost stunning. You want to tell him about the real pianist. You want to tell him that you're not smart enough, you're not talented enough to be called that. But you know you can't do that. The old man didn't do that to you, after all, and he wouldn't want you to do it now. And so you tell him, yes, you are the pianist. You feel as if it's not true, but the way he looks at you, with wonder and respect, makes you reconsider. Perhaps you're not the pianist, but maybe you are, in some ways, the pianist. He asks you for a song, and it brings you back into reality, to this dimly lit room with only the piano and the chair. A room where memories were made, and where songs have and will be heard by those who were and are brave enough to come and listen. You tell him yes, of course you'll play a song, and, smiling, you motion to the chair at the side of the room. Nodding silently in thanks, he runs over to it, sitting down with his hands beneath his legs. You smile once again. You wonder at the marvelous cycle of life, of this joy that one can bring another. Thinking of the old man and the way he played for you, you hope that maybe you'll be at least a portion of the pianist you once was. And then you begin to play.